Hello, welcome to the Holistic Healer Podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things holistic. I am your host, Cheryl Lee. Today's guest, Jeff, otherwise known as JeffJuices, has healed himself of chronic health conditions through juicing and water fasting. He is now a regenerative detoxification coach who has a passion for helping others. We sit down today to discuss his journey, juice feasting, the power of healing during a water fast, both physically and emotionally, and so much more. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Holistic Healer Podcast. I am your host, Cheryl Lee. And today's guest is Jeff, otherwise known as JeffJuices on social media platforms. He has healed himself of multiple chronic diseases through water fasting and juicing. And you're now a detox and fasting coach. So I'm so happy to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on and joining me.
Thank you for having me. Stoked to be here and talk to you.
Yeah, sweet. So just, from what I've kind of heard, I've listened to some of your Instagram stories, and you weren't always a detox fasting coach. It kind of, the reason why you're that now is kind of a journey that got you to this place. So could you kind of share with my audience how JeffJuices got to this present moment and that journey? Because it's really pretty amazing.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. So much like many people who enter raw food, I got really sick, like sicker than most people who enter raw food. I was bedridden.
Yeah.
And I'm 38. I started my life off as a commercial photographer, and I traveled and did that for like 15 years. And during that, I just really destroyed my body. I partied a lot. I did a lot of drugs, and I ate processed food and soda and candy literally for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner pretty much my entire life. A gallon of milk when I was a kid every day, 10 sodas a day. I just polluted my body so hardcore. And my health journey actually started. I didn't really get sick. I didn't know I was sick until I was in Costa Rica on a surf trip, and I drank some tap water there. And it just destroyed my gut immediately. And it started, I lost like 10 pounds in 3 days, got a bacterial infection. Ended up taking antibiotics, and like many people who develop IBS or IBD, I took antibiotics, and that's what triggered my health issues and the decline of my health. And so that was about maybe 12 or 13 years ago. And so that really like just kickstarted the gradual decline of my health condition. And it started from being just undigested food particles and a little bit of bloating over time, with no other health issues, to slowly developing into like the worst digestion possible, laying on the ground, crying, throwing up multiple times a day. I'd be traveling on a photo shoot in Alaska, hanging out of helicopters and stuff, and we'd land, and I'd run over to a tree and just throw up. I'd climb up mountains and have to puke twice on the way up. And I was so dedicated to my craft and working that I didn't really show what was going on with me. I was really good at hiding it. And I also didn't know what was going on with me. I tried lots of research and, went to many doctors so many times, and nobody knew what was wrong with me. They said I was healthy, and I looked healthy. I looked athletic, and it just, it just kind of accumulated to the point where I was like, okay, I got to stop everything I'm doing and figure this out, And so, so I had
was that
tried.
Scary for you? Like like vomiting, like was.
I mean, honestly, I just got so used to it. So every week I would really travel somewhere for like 3 or 4 days to go do a photo shoot. And every time I would do that, I would throw up. So it almost became normal. It wasn't okay, but I normalized it, and it was like, okay, well, I got something going on with me. I don't want to go to the doctor and really take the medicine.
Got you.
So, they didn't really also know what to give me because they didn't know what was wrong with me. So up for like 2 years, nobody knew what was going on. So I had tried a bunch of different diets in that time to fix it naturally. I tried a bunch of diets like the paleo and keto and carnivore. I did raw carnivore, which a lot of people don't realize that I did. I did raw carnivore for like 6 months almost before I went raw vegan.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I was trying things. I wasn't just sitting there on my butt, just not doing anything. and I just never really understood veganism. I was always kind of scared of it, and it didn't make sense to me, and I just wasn't down for it. I thought that we were cavemen eating meat since the beginning of
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So then really how I got into the fruitarianism, it was like 3 years of just trying diets, and not really nothing was clicking and nothing really made perfect sense. And then I swallowed a little tiny camera, which is cliche for my career at the time. A
Yeah,
little tiny,
right.
a little tiny pill camera. And so this camera takes a picture every second the whole way through your
Right.
intestines to see what's going on. It's like an endoscopy, except it goes the whole way. And that camera got stuck for 4 months in like a little pocket in my
Oh
intestines.
my
And
goodness.
I would go to the hospital every week to get an x-ray to see if it had moved at all. And it really didn't. And eventually my intestines like seized. It kind of got stuck and lodged, and I was just throwing up. No food or water was going down. And during that time, I had,
Wow.
I would say 1,000 worst nights of my life through that year. Just puking every day, just in such rough
Oh my
shape.
goodness.
And so eventually, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the hospital. I'm going to the emergency room, and I'm going to just get this thing taken out, because I was battling with my health insurance to get this camera taken out without surgery.
Got you.
So I go there. They wanted to pump my stomach, and eventually it calmed down. The inflammation released, and it started stuff started moving through my intestines. But during that session in the hospital, I realized that I had Crohn's disease. I found out I had Crohn's. And so that night in the hospital was like the last night of the rest, of my previous life, to be honest.
Right.
Because I did something that I had never done before. I looked up like plant-based healing, and so just one simple Google search, I literally just typed in plant-based disease healing, and Super Juice Me popped up, the Garrison therapy popped up, and I watched those two videos right there. And then it was like a bolt of lightning hit my soul. It just connected harder than
Really? Wow.
anything had connected in my brain before. And I knew from like the second I really learned about raw food that I was going to be a raw vegan for life. Not even question it. It's just like, that's what I'm designed to eat. That's why I got sick. Moving forward now, it wasn't even like, oh, this is going to be tough. It's like, oh, I know what to do. Perfect. It was so easy for me. And I've always been like a very simple problem solver, that like, it's like something hits me. It's not even a problem. It's just like, okay, what do I got to do to fix it? So it wasn't even that hard for me to make the switch, to be honest, from like processed food and meats and to raw food. It was just like, oh, this is what I got to do. It makes sense. And so immediately I got out of the hospital, went to Walmart, like on the trip home, got a juicer and carrots and cucumbers and apples, and I started juicing them. And within a week, I started kind of noticing a little bit of change. My skin started getting a little bit better. I had a little bit more energy, and my brain wasn't as cloudy. And spending every waking second, really, after that week in the hospital, of just like on YouTube and reading books and listening to podcasts and stuff. And it just made sense what I needed to do. And so that's kind of what ticked it off. And so I spent 2 hard years like really learning how to heal myself, and kind of like you, probably just diving into everything and everyone.
Yeah.
And then it worked. I saw major benefits. I started doing the Garrison therapy kind of because I wasn't addicted. I was so addicted to processed food still, and like heavy proteins that I needed like some cooked food and oatmeal and stuff. And I did that for a few months. It didn't really work. The juicing helped a bunch, but my intestines were just like, there was no food going through them. So I was still puking every day, And so then I kind of discovered the juice feasting thing. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take 3 months and just do only juices. I understood so clearly that the food I was putting in my intestines was destroying my intestines. And in order for me to like allow my intestines to have some breathing room, I needed to stop eating, and I had discovered Lauren and Doug and Arnold Ehret. I was just too scared to water fast at the time. So I did 90 days on juice, and that changed my life. I lost a bunch of weight in the first month and a half, but I just saw so many beautiful things happen. I saw parasites coming out and mucus coming out of every spot of my body. Like mucus, parasites, worms, candida. My tongue was blowing up. It was super white. And And
Oh.
I mean, by this time I was almost like an intermediate in knowing what to do,
Hmm.
just because I spent every waking second learning about it.
Yeah. You were
And
really
so
educating yourself.
yeah, and so I kind of knew what to look for, and I was experiencing everything that I was reading about. So it was like I was kind of, I was in pain a lot, but I was like, this is amazing. Like I am living through what I'm reading about. I'm living proof that this is working.
Yeah.
And once I saw the first long parasite come out in the toilet,
Wow.
I was like, I screamed. I was so happy. I ran in and like told my girlfriend at the time. I was like, look, everything I've been researching is working. Like
Yeah.
I'm eliminating this crazy stuff. And she
Yeah.
was like, I don't care, dude. Leave me alone. I don't want to know
Yeah.
this.
I don't want to see that.
Yeah, exactly. And so it just, I ended that juice cleanse with just eating watermelon and cantaloupe and persimmons and stuff. And that was it. That was kind of the rest of my life is kind of history. And I kind of like didn't really
Wow.
give up doing
Yeah.
photography yet, but I took like a year and a half off from doing any work and just kind of like hung out around the house and juiced
Hmm.
and ate fruit and stuff. And I had a lot of mental issues that
Yeah.
I developed from being sick, so I was kind of crippled. That I couldn't really even be around people. I was so like anxious and depressed and stuff. So it took quite a couple of hard years of like really relearning how to function on almost every
Hmm.
level.
Sounds like you were like really dedicated though. Like you had your eye on the target and nothing was going to take you off of that
Yeah,
path.
yeah. I mean, it was the
Hmm.
only. I knew that the only thing that I needed to do in life for the next at least probably 3 to 5 years was to just figure out myself, because I had been ignoring myself for 28 to 30 years.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
for me, it was the most
So,
perfect wake up call, really.
right. And you're kind of unique in that like most people who get into the raw food and then get into the fruitarianism, usually it's kind of like vegetarianism, veganism, getting into the raw gourmet foods, and it's kind of this transition over time. But for you, it's you just kind of jumped right into the juicing and the fruits and ultimately really the fruitarianism like
Mhm.
right out of the gate. How was the did you have a lot of withdrawals as well, like over
Oh
that
yeah.
time of
Oh my
craving,
gosh.
like
Yeah.
yeah.
I was a binge eater, like
Mm,
the perfect description of a binge eater. Every night, pretty much my whole life, I would eat a box of cereal and a half a gallon of milk right before I'd go to sleep. You
wow.
know, and
Wow.
so I had major addictions, and there were probably 5 or 6 times within the first few months where I would just go binge out and eat like Dairy Queen and eat a
Uh-huh.
Cinnabon and go get a slice of pizza at 7-Eleven. Just what if anything like clicked and just got my blood boiling, I would just say F
Yeah.
it and just go get it.
Yep.
And the last time I did that was actually the day before I started a juice cleanse. It's a kind of a weird, quick little story. My girlfriend at the time was
Yeah,
going to
love it.
Africa for a month, and I
Mhm.
realized that I had a break from her for a month to just figure my shit out.
Right.
And
Mhm.
so I said, one last hurrah! I'm gonna go eat every taste that of like the worst possible food that I could, and then just have one last hurrah before I move into this life. And I went and got like
Yeah.
4 blizzards at Dairy Queen, a Cinnabon,
Oh
all
my
candy
goodness.
cereal, and sandwiches. I got like a cheeseburger, and I ate all of it at one night at like midnight, just on like the most crackhead style rampage. And then
Yeah.
I went and threw up in this bathroom down at this like park by my house because I didn't want to wake my roommates up. And
Oh
I
my
puked
goodness.
all the food that I ate up. I went to sleep. I had a beautiful sleep. I slept for like 13 hours, and I woke up, and it was literally like the first day of the rest of my life. I started a juice cleanse that day,
Wow.
and I still had cravings, but I learned how to control them. And after 3 months on juice, the cravings went away majorly. And
Yeah.
by the time I was eating again, I was like craving just cucumbers and any fruit. It didn't even
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like, a lot of people they don't make the connection that like the withdrawal is just like coming off of alcohol or, whatever drug you happen to be, misusing. Food is very strong addictive drug, especially if you're on the junkie crap. So it's one of those things that sometimes people step into the space and they might have some healing crises and then they think, "Oh, this isn't working," but really it's that's what you want. You want that to happen. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So when you started implementing, before you went into the raw veganism and the juicing and the water fasting, and you were kind of dabbling with the keto and the paleo and raw carnivore, did any of your health markers improve at all for you during that time? Like, not at
No,
all?
nothing. I got worse,
Wow.
majorly worse. Yeah. Because I was
You did?
restricting eating carbohydrates a lot of the times. I
Yeah.
found out I had SIBO
Hmm.
before I had Crohn's. And so
Okay.
those diets are like low fermentation. Their theory is that carbohydrates are fermenting in your gut, which, they
Right.
are, but everything really is. And so I was
Hmm.
just eating like meats and cheeses, and I was eating mostly animal based. And my digestion
Right.
sometimes would get like a tiny bit better for a couple days and then followed by 3 days of throwing up. So there was no like rhyme or rhythm.
Wow.
And then all the other health issues that I developed got majorly worse. So the
Yeah.
brain fog and chronic fatigue and joint pain and pre-diabetes and all just so my hormones were just so messed up. All that stuff just got way worse. Within like 6 months, it just went from being like
Wow.
slowly to like just straight downhill. I felt like I was going to die within probably a few years if I didn't make a
Really?
change. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was really
Yeah,
bad.
because I know, like, kind of out there in the space right now with the carnivore movement and the keto and the paleo, that kind of thing. A lot of people will say on that side that, this healed me from, chronic disease, that chronic disease. And a lot of people will say, well, I mean, if you remove yourself from the standard American diet and you start eating whole foods, whether it's vegan or, whole meats, you're going to start to feel better. So I was just interested to know whether, after coming off such a, you know, super junky, crappy, what sounds like a real standard American diet, if that kind of helped at all, but it didn't.
No, my intestines
Interesting.
honestly were so like it was like a bomb field. Probably my intestines were so broken that
Yeah, right.
literally nothing I was eating was helping. So the,
Right.
the the root of my
Hmm.
all of my issues was just I couldn't digest anything. So even if I did go from like eating candy to meat, it wouldn't have mattered because I couldn't digest anything.
Yeah,
I was such a
right.
rare
For
case
sure.
of crippled
Hmm.
in the gut.
Yeah. So after you did that 90 days on juices, was that kind of when you started to discover water fasting? Like, what was the
No,
transition from the juice feasting into the water fasting?
yeah. So I honestly discovered everything that first night in the hospital. I learned about water fasting
Oh,
from
okay. Got you.
Lauren and Doug, and juice cleansing
Hmm.
from John Rose,
Yep.
and from honestly from Fit Shorty, Ted Carr, and I think those are the two people that I saw on YouTube, kind of like doing the fruitarian thing. I knew what to do. I knew I needed to water fast, but I just wasn't there mentally. I just couldn't accept it
Right.
yet. I just thought it would be too extreme for me, and so
Hmm.
I didn't do my first long water fast. I'd done several like 5 day or less ones throughout that journey, but
Hmm.
I didn't do my first water fast until 2 years ago, which would be like 4 years into raw food.
Got you. Okay.
When I wasn't really getting any results, I kind of tapped out. I hit a wall in my healing. I was maybe at like
Right.
70%. My intestines were still giving me some issues. I was still getting bloated sometimes, and
Hmm.
I wasn't able to really gain weight.
Hmm.
Gain weight. My hormones still weren't working great. My sleep was bad, and my digestion still wasn't perfect. I was light years healthier than I was when I started,
Okay.
like completely different person, but still not anywhere close to being in perfect health. And so I
Hmm.
discovered water fasting on that first day, but when I did, it was 4 years later, and it was just basically one
Okay.
night. I had been kind of planning around that year 4 to start a water fast, and that year I broke my leg really bad, broke my leg, and I was gonna go do a water fast with Lauren right after I broke my leg, but it got infected, and I felt like it was just
Oh,
kind of
wow.
unsafe to do that. So I spent six months going through like 4 different surgeries to do that. And during that time, I was pretty much living on juice because I was just trying what I could to give my body to heal. And I
Yeah.
lost a ton of weight and I couldn't gain it back. So just one night, I was like, screw it, I'm going to call Lauren and see if I can go fast tomorrow. And I just on a whim, I was like, I think I need just to go down a
Wow.
different path now.
Amazing.
I figured I had
Hmm.
gone deep, but not even close to really deep enough. And so
Right.
then kind of like 2 days later, I flew down to Costa Rica and started a water fast. And it was very
Wow. And how
difficult.
long, how long did you fast for?
Yeah, so I paid to fast for 21 days, but I only fasted 19, and it was like 19 of some of the hardest days of my life. Every single day
Oh, I can
was
only
like
imagine.
I was going through war. My blood sugar crashed on day 3, I believe, into the low 20s, which is medically
Wow.
near death, you know. And
Yeah.
I just persevered. I couldn't really get up or walk or lift my head up most of the time. I was very low energy, you know.
Hmm.
And after, I think on a day 11 or 12, my blood sugar slowly started to come back up. So whatever pre-diabetes I had, I think that was healing. And
Got
so
you.
I got through it. I made it to day 19. I was skin and bones, what seemed like. I was really thin, and breaking my fast with coconut water was like the most beautiful experience I ever had. I have a very emotional video on my YouTube channel just with that breaking of the fast. I was very
I
thin and
bet.
depleted, and what I had healed during that first fast was it was a miracle. I
Hmm.
eliminated years of cigarettes, and I tasted cocaine and a lot of
Wow.
thoughts of these old foods I had. I went through those thoughts again, and I cried every day for months
Hmm.
before and after that fast. I healed my heart. My heart broke open on that fast, and
Yeah.
I forgave myself for everything. I forgave
Hmm.
everyone that had ever like wronged me. I just became a pile of love, you know, and it was really cool, but
Yeah.
it was hard, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
And
I was going to ask you about that because obviously, we go into a fast, and I think kind of the physical part of it is at the forefront, but really there's that whole emotional layer that just happens organically. You do get to it to a certain degree, I think, through juicing. Whenever you stop eating, even just cooked food, we kind of open up, we remove some of those blockages. But yeah, I was going to ask you, like, your emotional experience. Like, during that first fast, did you find that there was things that were coming up, maybe like childhood memories, things that were maybe like old wounding that may have happened that, I've heard of people, they've forgotten about things, and during a fast, these memories come back up and they're able to kind of get them up and out and work through them and process it. Did that happen for you?
yeah, I had a lot of trauma as a kid. You know, I
Mhm.
wasn't like beaten, but I had a pretty rough emotional childhood. And
Mhm.
so all of that stuff came up. And during the fast, you know, like during the days where I was going through it, I was mostly just in so much pain that I was feeling just the trauma coming back almost. And I wouldn't say
Right.
that I was healing from it necessarily, but I was reliving it. And so I spent a lot of
Right.
days
Yeah, this is to
crying.
say.
Yeah, I spent a lot of days crying because I was in severe pain, but also just because I was going through these emotional recurrences of what I was doing.
Mhm.
And it wasn't really until day 4 of refeeding after that fast where I eliminated I had the worst night of my whole life before I eliminated for the first time after refeeding. The food,
Really?
the
What
poop,
happened?
whatever I was eating, the plaque, it got stuck in my colon, and it was a very traumatic experience, like severely stuck where I thought my rectum was going to fall out, and it kind of did. I have a video on that too that is a very
Yeah,
gruesome
good. That's
and
amazing that you share all of your experiences for
I
everybody.
mean, I'm just trying to, you know, get some clarity for other people who might be going through. And I've had many people watch that
Yeah.
video and be like, "Man, I'm so glad I watched it. I had something similar happen." And you know, basically, I tried to push on day 3 of refeeding really hard, and it kind of broke the muscles loose in my rectum. And so I had a
Mhm.
very hard mass, probably like that big, stuck in my colon that was like plaque that I had rehydrated during this fast.
Yep.
And it just wouldn't come out, you know. And so I tried to push and it just wouldn't come out.
Oh
So
my
I spent a
goodness.
very traumatic morning doing everything I can with my hands and some enemas and some coconut oil and rubber gloves, just stretching and
Wow.
pushing. And eventually it came out. And after this came out, it was it was like I had been reborn. It was like
I was just gonna
immediately.
say that.
I'm talking
Yeah.
immediately. I went from feeling like, okay, I definitely had some benefits from the fast. I felt a lot of things,
Yep.
but then I released this like 8 pound brick, and I went from being like, okay, I'm feeling some energy coming back to being like,
Yep.
I wanted to
It's
just
like
run around like
euphoric,
a, oh
right?
my
Angels
God.
singing.
It was like that for a good 3 months. And
Yeah,
during
I can only
that first
imagine.
day when I eliminated, I experienced pure bliss and joy. And then that night when I was laying in bed, all of the emotions just came out. I was so happy. I just cried for hours. It just poured out of me. And like every
Wow.
day during the day, the next like week or two during that, I just had the most beautiful, happy day of my life. And the evenings were
Yeah.
just filled with like crying and just a lot of just pouring and the happiness just pouring out. And that
Mhm.
continued for like almost 3 months where I just saw these beautiful emotional and physical like changes happen.
Mhm.
And then I went from being like, even at 4 years on raw food, still kind of being crippled in some ways mentally, to being like, I'm
Right.
I'm alive again, like baby, I'm back, like let's live.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I
That
didn't gain any weight
rebirthing.
back. Yeah, it was exactly. It was a complete rebirth, and something that really helped was during the fast, during the whole like 28 days that I was in Costa Rica. I didn't touch my phone, a computer, a TV, or really even read a book. I was with myself. I really was just with me, and
Amazing.
I just needed to
Wow,
be
what a
back into my own
beautiful
brain to
experience.
understand what I'm thinking. And so that was almost just as important as the fast itself, like getting off of all the distractions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of the
And
social
so,
media and all of that can be, those are all still kind of like little addictions we have in our life.
yeah, majorly.
So, were you always like, would you consider yourself a kind of a emotionally open man leading up into the water fast? Like, have you always been fairly kind of open emotionally, would you say?
I mean, yes, I'm a very open book. Like you ask me any question, I could never lie. I'm as straightforward
Yeah.
as it possibly gets. But
Yeah.
if you were to ask any of my previous girlfriends, they'd be like, "You're a little closed off," you know. So
Right. Yeah.
I had some walls. I had some major walls for
Yeah.
sure, and I had some things
Mhm.
that I felt like I
Yeah.
needed to hide. I needed to kind of like you know not
Yeah.
let the world see my like deepest side. And now I don't really care. I'm not, honestly, I'm
Yeah.
not the deepest person. I'm I would say I'm in between like a deep person and a normal dude. you know
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Right. Yeah. Mhm.
but I can go there, and I like going there if the time is right. But
Do
I
you
don't think I
feel
ever
that
could
you
have been
would have
able
been
to go
able?
there. I was just about to say, I don't
Yeah,
think I
that's
ever
what I was
would
going to
be
ask.
able to be who I
Yeah.
am now and being able to really go as deep as people would like if I had never gone through this
Mhm.
traumatic, like raw food
Yeah.
and the fasting experience. It wasn't just the fasting, but that was kind of like the icing on the cake
Right.
for my journey, you know.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, I feel like it's just you were in the environment that was, could support you through that, right? Where you could
Yeah.
actually open yourself up and not only heal yourself physically, but also, we don't realize how much emotional weight we carry around in the world too.
Oh, of
It's just
course.
as
Yeah.
important to, I'm so big on that, on healing the emotional body as well as the physical body. I feel like they're
Yeah.
really, one, they go hand in hand. You can't have one
Yeah.
without the other.
And I'm still
So
working on that. I feel like I'm a
during,
beginner almost.
yeah, of course.
I've
I mean,
done
I don't
three
think it's ever
fasts since
done.
then, and each time I've done a fast has been just completely different, and I've healed so many traumas each time I do that, and I still feel like I'm
Yeah,
just
for
getting started.
sure.
Like I'm a normal person again, which is great, but knowing
Yeah,
how much stuff I already went through, I feel like I still have a lot of work to do mentally just to recover from being
yeah,
raised so wrong and living in this so fucked up society that we're living in.
yeah.
On every, it's
Hmm.
not even on one level, it's every single level of everything we're doing is ass
Yes.
backwards to nature and what is healthy for a human being. So
Yeah, I feel, yeah, and I think like, I always like to say, like like it's never done. You just all, it's another layer and it's another layer and it's another layer, as we move through life, there's more. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I feel like definitely the raw food, the juicing and the water fasting is just, it's just a way to open up everything. And it's just so, I love that word, to be reborn or to rebirth
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah,
It's the
exactly.
perfect way to do that. So, do you feel that somebody can achieve, I don't want to say like optimum, like their optimum health, because I know that that's different and people have a different idea of that for each individual, but juice feasting, for example, as opposed to going on a water fast and dedicating yourself to, say, 21 days, the level of healing that can be accomplished, is it like no comparison in terms of what you can actually heal in comparing the two?
It's so I want to be gentle because a lot of people are
Hmm.
really into the juicing, and I mean that's kind of my
Yeah.
identity as the juice guy.
Yeah,
And
for
there's
sure.
a
For
time and
sure.
place for both of them,
Hmm.
but water fast you can't even compare juicing to water fasting. Water fasting is honestly probably 1,000 times more effective. 1,000 times.
Right.
So you could do. I mean, it also depends on the person. If you have really open organs of elimination, then your body's going to be able to cleanse
Yeah.
quite well. But really, even people who are mildly sick who do a juice cleanse and get great results, you do a 21-day water fast or even a 2-week water fast, and it's going to be astonishing what happens because you're really forcing your body
Right.
to rehydrate and to eliminate when if you're eating, which I consider juicing, you're still eating. It's still a complete meal. It's just a
Hmm.
liquid meal. You're
Yeah.
not really forcing your body to like eliminate decades old waste because you're still getting calories. And
Right.
so when you stop eating food
Hmm.
and you go after like 4 or 5 days of not eating food, your body starts searching and eating up its own
Hmm.
matter, its own material, and converting that into glucose. And until you do that, you're probably not going to really eliminate the really old hardened stuff that's in your glands
Yeah.
and in your organs. And most people, to be completely honest, to eliminate everything that we've been eating and smelling and jabbing into us, will need at
Hmm.
least 4 water fasts to really get it out. I'm saying at
Yeah.
least. Most people
Yeah.
hate that I would ever say that. Oh, I've been eating
I
raw
know.
for 5 years and I feel great. I'm raw vegan for 10 years. I feel great.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're
Yeah.
dehydrated and you never tapped into the deepest sediments of hardened stuff. And
Yeah.
I that's why I want to be so gentle and loving saying this, but
Hmm. Of
it's just the
course.
truth. Everyone who water fasts, regardless of your health, even if you think you're the healthiest person ever, you see magical things happen and you eliminate stuff that is at least 10 to 20 years old, and so
And that's and
unfortunately most people get to a place in their health where they feel good. But
right.
if you're really, I'm so dedicated to getting every demon out of me from my previous
Hmm.
choices that most people aren't there mentally. They're not willing to do that. And so I think it's
No.
great that people do get their lives back from juicing and eating raw food. And for some
Hmm.
people that's all they need. They just need to get their life back and feeling good. But I want to feel as perfect as possible and I want to have zero signs of any sort of dehydration or
Hmm.
remnants of processed food from my old life. I want to be able to sleep for 6 to 7 hours and wake up and feel like electric all day until I die, really, with no signs of any health issues,
Yeah.
no allergies. I never get
Yeah.
a cold, never get sick, never have bad skin
Hmm.
or, you know, and some people might call that like an addiction to detox, but I think that's a bullshit cop out where it's like I'm addicted
Yeah.
to just feeling the way that God designed my body to feel. I don't want to have any health
Yeah.
issues ever again because I had so many bad health issues that I
Yeah.
I'm okay with doing these detoxes and these fasts now because it's really
Yeah.
not that difficult. You just go through it and then you get over it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
then
I
you move
feel like
on.
yeah, you move on and then you either, then the choice is yours whether you want to do another one. But I feel like for you, it's more like you're kind of a seeker in the way of maybe the evolution of, of Jeff in the evolution of what that is through fasting. It's
Yeah.
just kind of seeking like what's the next level, what's the next level, and always kind of looking. So I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. And I feel like that
So in
opens the
terms of
door
water
into
fasting,
really tapping into the emotional side. So I feel like I've got to go through some of these physical cleanses to then really I mean,
yeah.
I've healed a lot of the emotional things, but I don't feel like I've really healed much spiritually, to be honest. And I feel like I still have a lot of
Hmm.
waste and blockages in my body to be able to really get to that phase of my healing. And while I might be
Yeah.
functioning, if you hang out with me, be like, damn, you got a lot of energy, dude. And you're super healthy. But, and I do feel super healthy, but I know I can just feel I've got so much
You
deeper
know.
things to heal that I need to keep going, you know? And I think like anybody
Yeah.
who's been in this world, you know, you kind of peel back layers and you see something and you're like, whoa, I need to get into that
Yeah,
a
for
little bit.
sure.
And I need to play with that. So
And I
yeah,
feel like the level of awareness keeps expanding. So the healthier you get and the more toxicity that's removed from the body, there's a deeper level of awareness to actually be able to check in with yourself and be like, nope, I know there's more there. I can feel it. And that's a personal feeling that, you can get. And you're going to only be the one who's going to be aware of that. Other people may say, well, you've done, 2 long juice fasts. Why would you need to do another one?
yeah.
But when you're tapped in and you have that awareness and that insight into yourself, it's like it's a knowing. You just know it.
Yeah, of course. And I've also met
So when you
so many
talk
other
about what,
people who have been water fasting and have gone through it. I've met people who've done 6, 7
yeah,
water fasts, and hearing their stories and their
wow,
transition after each fast and what they went through and what they healed. It's like it's a no brainer. You know, even if I end the elimination of like old material and the poisons out of my body,
yeah,
then fasting for spirituality is still super beneficial. You know, it's not like, oh,
right,
I've eliminated all the toxins, now the game's over, great, go live. It's like, well, now I still have 38 years of trauma and generations before I was
right.
even born from my
Yeah,
ancestry, you
like we
know.
haven't even talked about the ancestral trauma yet,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right?
and
Which is
inherited a
real.
lot of
That's a
trauma.
real thing too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. How do you feel about using a lot of people in the space, talking about kind of the emotional and the ancestral trauma, using plant medicine as a way to kind of move through that?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I've heard stories. I've never really done it myself. I'm I
Nor have
feel
I.
like I feel like it's helpful for some people, but I also feel like it's going the opposite direction of what we're trying to do. We're trying to decemicalize and de-traumatize ourselves and go
Right.
back within.
Exactly.
You know, and I feel like plant
Yep.
medicines and you know, like a mushroom ceremony or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a toxin that takes you in an unnatural way away from yourself. And so I think
Yeah.
you
Exactly.
can experience all that stuff going within. Like I've met this dude named Mateo, who has spent, I would say, 15 years now deeply meditating. I think he spent somewhere like 10 years, like 8 hours a day meditating through his 20s after he was like a drug
Wow.
addict. And he healed a lot of things, and he has had these experiences going within. I'm pretty sure this is what he said, just going within like
Uh huh.
meditation style. And so I feel like there's a lot of people that have a similar story of learning how to
Yep.
find those spirituality healing sessions, but going
Hmm.
within. And that's when
Yep.
I feel like the real
Absolutely.
healing happens. And you might get some benefits
Hmm.
from tripping, you know, and having these
Yeah.
ceremonies, but I don't know if it's like necessarily a complete reconnection. I haven't really dug too deep
Yeah.
into it. And I haven't really reached that phase yet, I am open to doing it, but I'm
Yep.
also very very skeptical because you know, if you're putting a poison in your body, it's going to have an effect. You know, so the
Well,
natural
I
way
was
to do it would
talking.
be to meditate.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you can also access those areas even through breath work, right? Like using the
Exactly.
breath
Yeah.
as a tool to also access some of those deeper layers. Because the hygienist in me, like I think, wow, people have had some pretty transformative experiences doing like ayahuasca and mushrooms and these types of things. But then the hygienist in me thinks, yeah, but the body's response is like diarrhea and vomiting. It's like it's literally trying to evacuate that out as quickly as possible, which means, that must be a pretty severe toxin in the body,
Mhm.
so, but I know there's a lot of people who have gotten some amazing benefits from it.
I
When
don't
you talk
honestly
about
know that many
fasting,
people who have done water fasting who still do ayahuasca trips. You know,
right? Yeah,
once you get
yeah,
into the cleanliness, what's the
it's
point
true.
in going
It's
into the
true.
toxic realm? You know, like the whole
Yeah,
point of water
exactly.
fasting is to get away from chemicals and toxins and just
Totally.
become as
Hmm.
natural and self governing as possible. So
That's right.
it sounds fun to be honest, to go through one of these.
Yeah, it
Like,
sounds fun. But you're right. There's not very
yeah,
many people in the space, I think, who are into water fasting, who are implementing those types of things, for the purpose of healing. Because
yeah,
when you're water fasting, I think it just happens, organically, you're going to go through it. When you were talking about water fasting and how people really need to, you said, possibly like 3, 4 times, like right now, especially over the last couple of years, there's been intermittent fasting. It's been really big. So, maybe have a 16-hour window. People are incorporating at home like a 24, 48, 72-hour fast. You're not talking about that for the purpose of healing. I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about actually taking the time to fast, maybe, I don't know, 14 to 21 days to really get into those deeper layers. Because I guess my question is it really possible, even if you took, say, over the course of a year and you did a 48-hour fast once a week for a year, you're not going to reach those deeper layers, I'm assuming, as you would if you were to just bite the bullet and do a 21-day water fast.
yeah, exactly. So I would consider intermittent fasting like it's a fake word. That's nothing. That's how you should normally just live.
Right.
If you're not
Right.
totally addicted to fatty and dense foods, you would typically only eat within like a 3 to 8 hour window, 1 to 3 meals a
Right.
day. So intermittent fasting is just called
Hmm.
life as a healthy person.
Right.
So
Yeah, for
so
sure.
so to really deeply heal, I guess you could, to describe the process of fasting, your body is almost like a sponge. And whenever you start to rehydrate that sponge, you start to squish things out. And the more hydrated it gets, the more you can squeeze it.
Hmm.
And also the less physical matter you have, because you're losing weight, you're losing fat and a bit of muscle, and also the stuff in your tissues. Each day that goes on, you start to rehydrate
Right.
older and older material. So imagine having 30 years of hardened heavy metals sitting in
Hmm.
your thyroid gland.
Right.
To tap into that, you might need 40 days of fasting. You would never even touch it until day 38, maybe.
Hmm.
So, and those are the things that are maybe causing your separation between spirit and self and physical form.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, for sure.
the each day that goes on, you rehydrate and eliminate fresher and older material. And so in
Hmm.
order to tap into the oldest, hardest material, you got to go those deep days. I would say a
Right.
minimum of 21 days. And I haven't even been able to hit 21 days yet with any of my 3 fasts, because I've been so toxic and thin. And so I feel like
What's the
my fast.
defining moment of breaking a fast?
Well, for me, it hasn't. I haven't
Like
needed
how
to break any, like physically. I haven't needed to break any fast, like because I was in danger. It's been the first
got
fast
you.
I emotionally couldn't really take it anymore, and I was very skinny. I'm
Okay.
6'2", 6'2", and I weighed 112 pounds when I broke my first fast. But I
Hmm.
could have gone for easily 2 more weeks. I would have been, you know, a skeleton, but safely. I wasn't starving yet. I was
Yeah.
still safe. I just couldn't take it anymore. I
Okay.
had so much pain coming out of me, and I couldn't even. I was crawling to the bathroom the last 3 days. I couldn't get out of bed.
Wow.
My second fast was much easier, but I
Hmm.
had some like plaque issues with my intestines. I stopped being able to drink water, and I started throwing up. The same thing happened on both of
Wow.
my last fasts. So I've done 2 19-day fast and a 14-day fast a couple months ago, and
Hmm.
traumatic experiences with my digestive issues just wouldn't let me go any further. So I'm still looking for that long 30 to 40-day fast, and I feel like the ones that I
Yeah.
have done have prepped me to get to those, and I'm about to do another fast probably in like
Hmm.
3 months. But I don't think many people realize how hydrated your body needs to get to really eliminate this old hard material.
Hmm.
And once you start seeing yourself around day 18 and what's happening to your skin and your eyes and the whites in your eyeballs, like after a couple weeks, they get so vividly clear. Imagine what they would be like after
Wow.
30 days. Like you're getting
Hmm.
so much poison out of your body that, you know, you can't really touch it with just 10 5-day fasts. It's not the
Hmm.
same thing. of 5 days of not eating, you're just starting to get into the rehydration process, and then you stop and then you eat again. So,
Right.
you could do
Yeah,
a
exactly.
1,000 5-day fast that would never be equivalent to one 20 to 30-day fast. It would never be the same thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
When you were doing your water fasting and your blood sugar got down to like in the 20s, like you were saying, and you had that experience with the blockage in your colon, like was there ever a time where the fear of like kind of anxiety and panic set in at any point where you were like just, you felt like your life was on the line and that you were wanting to escape to a hospital or kind of go to that side?
That's a really good question. To be honest, not really. I, I've read
Mhm.
so many books on fasting, and I've listened to so many testimonials of people going through brutal fasts that
Yeah.
I'm very accepting to the process and to the pain
Okay.
during the process. And so I realize that almost any symptom that I will have during a fast is necessary to go through. And unless I see something like 5 straight days of throwing up
Right.
and the symptoms of like an electrolyte imbalance, I don't really see a need to break the fast if I'm willing to just lay there and cry and get through it day to day. Because I've had
Yeah.
hundreds to thousands of days laying in bed crying that it's not,
Uh-huh.
I think because of my education, I'm not really too scared of anything, and if I were to
Right.
have no research in fasting, then yeah, I would have been like, oh, I'm going to die. I need to break my fast. But for one,
Yeah.
I've done the research, and for two, I was at, Tanglewood where Lauren had seen that before. And he's like, it's not very common that this happens, but it has happened. And I've also heard Alan
Mhm.
Goldhammer at True North talk about it. And
Yeah.
typically, the uneducated faster would break the fast during that, but
Yeah.
you're not gonna heal. You have to go through it. Almost every symptom that you go through during a
Yeah.
water fast, you kind of need to go through it in order to heal.
Right.
I can't say
To
every
fully
symptom, but
heal.
every isolated symptom isn't always necessarily a reason to break your fast. So if you have a bunch of different things happening, then you can look at it as a whole and be like, okay, you might be in danger. But if it's just like the blood sugar thing, it's probably fine. If your blood
Right.
pressure jumps up and that's it, you're probably fine. You just need to get through it. You know?
So, just in your opinion, the if people want to do some kind of a water fast an extended water fast, so something between say 2 weeks and 21 days, like are you really advocating for supervision to do
Yeah,
something like that?
100%, 100%. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people who are, they're the strong enough willpower that they'll never even do that. They'll never take guidance really.
Yeah.
I would say two things: read Rational Fasting by Arnold Ehret, and read The
Mhm.
Science and Fine Art of Fasting by Herbert Shelton.
Yeah.
And either go do a fast with Lauren, Doug, or True North would be my last kind of like
Yeah.
recommendation. Just because these
Mhm.
are the three people on the planet really who understand a plant-based fruit diet, who have
Yes.
fasted 10 to 20, 30,000 people. So they've seen it. And if
Yeah.
you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself, you're going to have a much better experience surrendering and let somebody guide you through it. And the reason
Yeah.
I chose to go to Tanglewood, which I wanted to do it on my own, it was just a much easier setting to have encouragement and to just be able to surrender a little bit and trust that
Mhm.
somebody else who has been through this, who has seen a lot of other people fast, has enough experience to say, hey, you're cool, keep going.
Yeah.
And also
Right.
to be around other people fasting. I feel like that's
Mhm.
almost more important. I wouldn't say
Right. You
more
have
important,
I
but
guess a sense of community.
encouragement to keep going. You can make some
Yeah.
basic fundamental things during a fast that won't guarantee your safety, but will pretty much take most people to a 14 to 21 day fast without really having any issues. But having other
Mhm.
people around you for support, knowing that they're all going through war together, it's
Yeah.
very helpful, which I
Yeah.
still
So
I
if you're
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I haven't. I'm going to do another fast here in a few months, and I haven't really decided if I want to try to do it on my own or organize a. So a few months ago, I organized a group of friends to fast here with me in Bali, and it
Oh,
was
okay.
amazing.
Wow.
It was really successful, and I haven't really decided if I want to try to do a fast on my own or or not, or maybe go back to Tanglewood or organize another group of friends here. It's just
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
so easy to do it with friends, but I'm also looking to
Yeah.
learn how to be self-motivated, which in many other categories I'm super motivated by myself, but in fasting it's like when you start hitting like a really rough patch, you're like, oh, I'm going to break my fast. You get that thought in your head and it's hard to get it out, you know?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, I haven't done any kind of extended fasting like that. So, I mean, I think I did 7, maybe 8 days in my
Yeah.
20s, but
That's great.
I can only, that was hard enough. I remember I can only imagine doing, trying to get to 21 days without support.
Yeah.
Like I think just to know that someone's there, because I'm assuming when you're at a place like Tanglewood or with Dr. Doug Graham, they're looking at your vitals, they're making sure that, your blood glucose is in, healthy ranges. Because I think a lot of people would get, if they get lightheaded, it's like they're going to just stop immediately. And then what happens is they walk away and they get a bad taste in their mouth about it. And then they just never go back, you know?
Yeah, of course,
So I just,
taking vital
yeah, for
signs once you
sure.
start going past like 5 to, I mean, even in the early days, some people can get into a really bad place even in the first few days, and having your vital signs is important. So I was taking all of our vital signs during my last fast that I organized, and
Yeah.
it was helpful. We could kind of see what was going on, and you talk about the symptoms that you're having, and then you look at the your chart, and I'm not near. Wouldn't even put myself in the same category as Doug or Lauren. They have way more experience, but I've been through 3 fasts.
Mhm.
I've seen hundreds of people fast now, so I do know what to look for a bit, and having the stats on paper just to track them, to see every day what they're doing, if they're going up or down. I
Right.
mean, it does put your mind at ease a bit. And especially if you're having blood sugar
Oh, yeah.
crashes, having taken your blood glucose is
Mhm.
like very helpful. So most people will never,
Mhm.
I would say most people, when you fast, you'll probably have an okay time. It'll be hard, but you're not going to have
Yeah.
any traumatic experiences like I had. There's very few people that go through what I did. And so,
Mhm.
most people shouldn't really be turned off by a small percentage of people who have such a brutally hard fast. Most people's fasts, you're low on energy, you're detoxing, coughing up mucus and headaches and stuff, but you're not like dead, you know?
Do you think it would be like a good idea for people who are interested in doing some deep healing through water fasting to maybe get like 1 or 2 juice feasts under their belt before they go into a water fast?
Of course. Yeah. That's why I
Yeah.
promote raw food and juicing, is because
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's a
Mhm.
good preparation. And also most people, not most people, but a lot of people will heal themselves to getting their life back and feeling fine with doing juicing
Right.
and eating a raw
Mhm.
diet. Most people will get rid of their
Uh-huh.
health issues doing that, which is what most people want. Most people don't even care to do a
Right.
water fast because they got their life back, which is great.
Mhm.
But to prep to do a water fast, minimum of a month on raw food, minimum. You know,
Right.
I
Yeah,
would say spend
absolutely.
at least a year on raw food and juicing, because it's going to make eliminating during your fast a lot easier. And I've seen people,
Mhm.
now that I've done several fasts and I've talked to so many people, just by now, I guess I'm considered the fasting and juice guy. A lot of people come to me with their
Yeah.
testimonies of their water fasts. And so I've heard a
Mhm.
lot of people having, and a girl on my recent fast that I did, she had some major issues after refeeding that are indicating that she had a lot of plaque in her intestines that didn't come out during the
Yeah.
fast. And refeeding,
Wow.
she's still in severe pain, and it's been a few months. And I've seen this happen to many people.
Mhm.
And so whatever you can do to rehydrate and prep your body for a very deep fast is going to be beneficial, you know? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, one concern for people who and water fasting or juice feasting, either even raw food to a certain degree, is the weight loss, especially for men. This is like a concern where, a Dr. Reese Latham, he likes to talk about get rid of the waste before you can put on the weight, and that waste has to go before you can actually start to rebuild in a healthy way. But I guess I know that you said that you went down to like 112 pounds. So what would you say to someone who really the idea sounds amazing, but the fear of the weight loss is what's holding them back.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I get that question a lot because I was so thin for such a long time. To be honest,
Mm-hmm.
you have to let go of the societal idea that you need to be healthy and strong.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be
Right.
strong and healthy without going through the process of breaking your body and this waist down. And anybody who has
Got
gone,
you.
I, anyone, it doesn't matter. Everyone who's gone through a long fast had to let go and just lose the weight. You're going to lose you
Mm-hmm.
typically a pound a day if you do a fast.
Right.
You'll lose most of the weight during the first week, the most percentage of your weight during the
Mm-hmm.
first week, and then it will start to slow down a bit. But if you do a 21-day
Mm-hmm.
fast, you can expect to lose 21 pounds. If you're super heavy, if you're like 200 pounds overweight, you'll probably lose a
Yeah.
lot more in that 21 days. But if you're super
Mm-hmm.
underweight, you'll probably lose a lot less. But if you're of a relatively normal weight, you're going to lose a pound a day. You have to understand that in order to get through your body and to rehydrate this stuff, you're going to have to eliminate it. And where
Right.
is all of this material stored? Typically in fat, So
Mm-hmm.
you can get down to like 3 to 5% body fat and be totally fine and not in any dangerous place. You're not going to have any weight and muscle. You're going to lose a lot of this bulk, but you're not in any danger. And when you come
Right.
back after eating, after eliminating all this waste, you're going to be so much more efficient and you're going to build muscle back quicker than you would before.
Right.
I'll tell you like my personal experience with this.
Yeah, for
After
sure.
my first fast, I weighed 112 pounds and I couldn't gain any weight, not a single pound for 6 months. So I'd walk around. I lived in Mexico at the time, walking around the beach looking like a skeleton. People were like,
Wow.
oh, like, oh my God. And I'm totally comfortable with it. I've completely let go
Mm-hmm.
of my ego. I know the process. I know in
Yeah.
probably 5 years I'll look super healthy and buff and strong and athletic, but I looked very scary compared to what most people look like. And then the weight started to come back on. And within 3 months of the weight coming back, I, I reached the weight where I had started my fast at. And over the next 3 months after that, I gained back 10 more pounds.
Wow.
So I started my second fast 10 pounds heavier than I did my first fast,
Mm-hmm.
which was like, that was huge because I couldn't gain weight because I had, you got this brick of plaque in your intestines. You eliminate it, you can naturally just gain weight eating the same diet, eating simple fruits and even juicing. And
Right.
so during my third fast that I did, I was 10 pounds even heavier from that. And so you're going to lose weight. That's just a natural process of fasting. Every animal who fasts and hibernates for a
Yeah.
while, you're going to lose a bunch of weight. But
Mm-hmm.
each time you fast, it's going to come back faster and more efficient, and your muscle is going to be even stronger. And so I'm 3 months post my last fast, and I'm 10 pounds heavier than I was when I started that fast. And
Wow.
I rebounded so quick. I'm like a month ago, which was 2 months post my last fast, I was at my a perfect normal weight again. Not perfect weight. I'm still a little underweight compared to my the normal the typical weight that my height needs. But
Right.
compared to when I first started fasting, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like a completely different. I look like a pretty normal person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and this would have taken so long had I never done any water fasting. And I never could have gotten to this place without fasting. It never would have happened. I needed to
Mm-hmm.
eliminate the material in order to build this healthy muscle and this healthy weight. Just
Yeah.
eating papaya and mangoes and pineapples, I can build
Yeah.
muscle on this diet, but I never would have been able to do this without rehydrating and eliminating the blockages that were not allowing me to absorb the simple food that I
Yeah.
was eating. And so you just got to let go of the ego. You got to let it go and just
Yeah.
realize it's part of the process. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, like obviously so many people identify and define themselves by how they look. And so their identity is tied into that. And the fear of, like the idea of fasting and healing themselves, it's kind of actually interesting that a lot of people would just as soon suffer with a chronic health condition that may be causing them pain or, and only because they can't release their physical identity and what's surrounded in that, which is all, like you just said, it's just ego based, right? But it
Of
keeps
course.
people stuck. And so by going through a juice fast, raw food, water fasting, all of that, and the weight does come off, it allows, I feel, for that emotional healing to at least start, because as that weight starts to come off, there's going to be an emotional component attached to that,
Of course. Letting
which
go with
is,
your identity
yeah.
is so important.
Hmm.
We are not our body. This is just a
No, we're
physical
not our body.
experience. And at the end of the
Yep.
day, most people could care less what you look like. You sit down and talk with somebody
Yeah.
for 3 hours. You're not looking at their
Yeah.
chubby gut. You could care less how thick they are, thin, or the shape
Yeah.
of their nose, or how strong they look. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And going through a fasting process really, I mean, it shows you that like you're not looking at yourself in a mirror every day when you're fasting. You're laying there, just sitting there with your own
Right.
thoughts. And at the
Hmm.
end of the day, that's
Yeah,
what is important, is
exactly.
what you think. It doesn't really matter what anyone
Hmm.
else thinks. And when you
Right.
go through these demons and these purges of the the self identity that we've been designed by, a
Yes.
big flaw in our society that we've been designed to hold into ourselves, when you can start to let that go, you can become a lot happier. You can become so much happier
Yeah,
once you stop caring, because at the end of the day, we're all
totally.
going to die. What our
Hmm.
body's going to get older and age a bit. It shouldn't really age
Yeah.
that much if we're hydrated, but eventually
Yeah.
we're going to lose this physical body. And at the end of your life, there's not going to be one old person that has ever said, "Oh, I wish I would have looked better." None of them. Nobody cared
Yeah.
about how they looked throughout
No.
their life. It was like your relationships, your experiences, the things that you did, the bonds that you made.
Hmm.
That's what's important.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's funny because my background is in, I used to do fitness competitions, and I was very
Oh
like
wow.
identified with my body. And, I was one of the, I'd get on the scale in the morning and it kind of dictated my day, based on a number on a scale, that kind of thing. I had some really unhealthy patterns around like my appearance, my body. And it's funny because I was talking to my son, he's 21 now. He's, really into bodybuilding and powerlifting, which is great. But I said, I realize how exhausting that is to be so identified with that. Like now I'd never weigh myself. I don't actually care. Like what I care about is my inner health and longevity. That's what I care about. I
Yeah.
think to some degree, we want to look after our body. We want to, make sure that we look after our body temple and we're hygienic and, all of those kinds of things. But I think that when we start, it's a path that is never going to end up in a place where you're going to find your healing, your true self, the evolution of the soul, which is what I really think, ultimately we all want. And also to be able to age in a way where we're not suffering. We're not, in our 70s or 80s and, not being able to walk, bedridden, all of these things. It's developing a lifestyle now so that that's available to us.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just think it's amazing just to get this subject out there so that people can understand that they don't have to live that way. You
Yeah.
know, they don't have, just because the masses are doing it, it doesn't mean that we have to go in that direction.
Exactly. I have an interesting scenario
Yeah,
for people to think about.
I would. Yeah, I'd
Imagine
love that.
all of these tribal native people living very closely off the land, who are living mostly outside, being physically
Hmm.
active, either hunting or gathering or farming every day. They're all fit. They're all relatively
Yep.
thin and muscular. Do you think they're
Hmm.
caring what their body looks like? No, because it doesn't matter. They're using their body as a
Yeah.
tool. They're not spending any time, 0% looking in a mirror, looking at each other. They don't even
Right.
care because number
Hmm.
one, they're all fit because of the way they're living.
Right.
So they all think that they look normal together. Everyone looks relatively the
Yes.
same. Nobody's fat, nobody's skinny.
Hmm.
They're all the same looking. It's like when you're
Exactly.
in a pack of wolves, most of the wolves look the same because they're all living the same way. Humans are
Right.
living just so upside down. None of us are physically active, Everyone sits at a
Yes.
desk and sits in front of a computer or a TV. We
Yeah.
don't do anything. And on top of
Yeah.
that, we stuff our faces with empty calories. And
Yeah.
so, of course, we're going to sit there and be thinking about what we look like because we're not doing shit anymore. Go outside and do
Exactly.
stuff. You could care less what you look like. Just start doing things
Yeah.
and you
Get
won't
off your
have time
phone.
to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
guilty. Like, I'm not
Abs-
perfect. I'm as far from perfect as it gets. I still care what I look like. You know, I
Of
still
course.
want
Of
to
course.
look
I think we all
physically
do.
fit. And, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
But
I
I,
think that's just realism. I mean, I think we all, to some degree, we care how we look. We want to be presentable. We want to feel good when we do look in the mirror, that we feel like, but there's a difference between wanting to look after ourselves and to look good and being obsessive to the point where you're willing to destroy your health for your appearance,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I think the
So,
where we're at with society and humanity, we need to find a balance and we need to start going back towards nature because you could test this
yes.
out on yourself. Go for a hike for 3 days in nature, go backpacking and go hiking for 3 days.
Hmm.
You will not care what you look like by the end of that 3 days. The only thing you care is what's in front of you in the moment, being completely present. And so
Right.
that's a big reason why we need to start being more active, is because we're sitting there just really thinking too much when we
Yeah.
really just need to be out living. And hopefully, I mean, I don't really see society going in that direction. We're all going to be wearing artificial intelligent headsets in 5 years, but the
I
smart people
know.
will be like being active and being outside.
I
And, you know,
know.
my goal is to go in the opposite direction of where technology is really going and only use
Mhm.
it as a tiny little tool, mostly for business.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to ask you about was, because you've talked about, when you're juice feasting, that ultimately the body's going to adapt to that, that the body
Mhm.
will just start to adapt to the juicing, and there's going to be an end point there. So that ultimately, you really don't have anywhere to go if you're looking for the deeper layers of healing, but to water fasting, if that kind of, I got you on that correctly.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Hmm.
and that's a thing that we see with with a lot of people who eat a raw food diet or even a fruit based
Hmm.
diet, is that anytime you improve your diet, you're going to start to see some detox things happen. But
Right.
there's really nowhere to go past eating fruit and juicing because it's the highest energetic food that we have. And so what happens with your
Yes.
body is your body eliminates at that energy level. The energy level of a
Hmm.
watermelon diet is only here. It can't go higher. And so once your body
Right.
acclimates to that amount of energy you're giving your body and it gets the waste out that amount of energy will allow, you have to go deeper. And there's really nothing deeper than juice cleansing. And so if you spend
Right.
six, I mean, you could probably live on juice for, I would say, 2 years and still see some like detoxing happen for sure. But then
Wow.
after that, you're you're not really going to see much because your body has now adapted to eating. That's your diet. That's what you eat every day. That's what you eat.
Hmm.
And so
Right.
in order to really see, I'm talking about seeing dramatic results. If you go from
Hmm.
eating 10 years on a raw food diet and never juicing, you'll probably see some detoxing happen if you go on a month on juices. But is it going to change your
Yes.
life? Is it going to change your life? Probably not. Maybe, if you've
Hmm.
been 10 years on raw food and you do a juice cleanse, maybe. If you've been 1 year on raw food and you do a juice cleanse, yeah, it's probably going to change your life. But you've been eating a
Right.
very hydrating diet for so long that your body kind of starts to adapt to that. And really, in order
Hmm.
to see any, I'm talking about life changing results, you're going to have to fast. If you're already, your body's
Right.
already adapted to the most energetic way of eating, and you've already detoxed so much through that diet, you know. And I
Hmm.
see this with everyone
Do you
who I've
feel?
done water fast with, is that they think that they're healthy and that they've really healed a lot until they do a water fast, and they realize, wow,
Yeah.
I'm so much healthier now. 3 months after you break your water fast, then you really start to see all the benefits. You're like, whoa, I'm a different
Yeah.
person now.
So you said you're 38 right now, you said?
Yeah.
38?
Yes.
Yeah. So at 38 years old and living the way that you've lived, I mean, you're still sitting here right now and you're saying, like, I still have another water fast. I've definitely got some more in me. I've got to do another fast. So Do you feel that fasting is something that someone would have to incorporate into their life ongoing for like make that commitment? It's not going to be just a one and done. You're not going to be able to just go and do a fast after living unhealthy for years, most people years. So do you think even for yourself that do you think you'll get to a place where you'll be able to say, okay, I don't need to water fast anymore. It's done? Or do you think that water fasting will be something you'll incorporate into your life for forever?
You're very well researched. That's a really good question.
No, thank you.
So most people, if you have a chronic health condition, you could probably get rid of that chronic health condition with one fast.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that you eliminated all the waste out of your body. That means that you eliminated the waste out of your body that got you into that sickness.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So most people, if you do a 21 to 40 day fast, depending on what type of health issue you have, most people need, a 26 day or a 30-day fast to really heal Crohn's disease, a 40-day fast to really heal like crippling arthritis. That still doesn't mean that all of the waste is out of your body. And you can fast. And if you're having detox symptoms during your fast, you still have waste in your body. So I want to say an explanation of fasting here to help people wrap their heads around it.
That'd be great.
Fasting is not a painful experience. Detoxification is a painful experience. So you can go without eating food for weeks and feel fine if your body is clean and healthy. So the reason I will continue to fast is because when I fast, I feel like shit.
Right. Yes.
So I understand that I still have waste coming out of my body.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so until you go in,
I'm also not totally symptom free. My digestion, when I eat nearly perfect, my digestion is nearly perfect, but I still don't have perfect sleep. My skin is still a little funky. I still have some allergies.
Okay.
And I mean, that's pretty much it. That's really the extent of my health issues now. Mm-hmm. But really, I'm not looking to fast. I don't want to fast. I actually hate it. Of course. It's not fun at all. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I am so dedicated to getting my body to work perfectly that I'm going to keep fasting until I feel like I have reached a point where, oh, this is easy. I no longer feel any symptoms of detoxing and I no longer need to fast. So the way that I see my life going and my current health status, I probably have 2 to 4 more long fasts. Maybe one to really get over the hurdle of like, okay, I'm totally symptom free, but now I'm going to really tap into those deeper hydration experiences.
Those deeper layers.
That might even be more like pineal gland, like rehydrations, which like nobody talks about that. What's the importance of your pineal gland to really connect with higher levels of energy? Nobody ever talks about that in the fasting world, because nobody really dedicates 3 to 6 water fasts. They get rid of their health issues by doing 1 or 2 fasts, and they're like, okay, I'm going to live again. And so, I don't really think I'll need to do more than like 2 or 3 more long fasts. But after that, every year, knowing where I'm living and the conditions of our environment, and driving a scooter around Bali behind people that are, driving with really like black exhausts.
Yeah.
I'll probably do a yearly fast of 3 to 7 days, which isn't really, it's not really that hard once you get your body pretty healthy and clean.
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't even know I was fasting for 7 days if they hung out with me.
Yeah. I mean, 7 days for you is probably pretty doable.
Well, right now it is. The first 2 fasts, it was still quite hard, but my last fast, I didn't really have many symptoms until like day 5 or 6,
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
I think Dr. Goldhammer at True North, I was watching him one time and he was saying every year he does 10 days, and he's like, I'd never want to, I can't stand it. I don't want to do it, but it's marked on the calendar every year. There's a 10-day fast.
Yeah.
But I love what you just said. That's a really good, but it's the detoxing that's painful, not the fasting itself. And that's actually a really good gauge to know that if you're going into a fast, and you're experiencing those, pain and all of these symptoms, then it just means that there's more to come out and there's more to do, you
Yeah.
know? And I feel like talking about the pineal gland and, the cleansing of that, I mean, I think at that point, that's when you're really getting into the spiritual layers of detoxification and, being able to actually enter into those levels. Because I don't know that it's possible if your body is full of blockages and you haven't cleared up physically. I don't know that there's like I think it would be very difficult to reach those higher levels without going through the physical pain of actually fasting through that and getting through that stage first. I don't
Of
know
course.
how you
Of
feel
course.
about that, but yeah.
Imagine doing 4 to 5 water fasts, and during all of those fasts, you're eliminating like hardened old waste and heavy metals and just
Yeah.
toxins. Then
Hmm.
imagine doing a fast and sitting there and meditating, not having any of the detox symptoms happen. So you don't have to worry about
Right.
the way your body feels because it doesn't feel bad anymore. That's where I would like to
Yep.
get to a place. And then if I really feel the need to go into the spiritual fasting, I will, which I've seen
Hmm.
many people get through the physical fasting to where they get their body working perfectly. And then they go into the spiritual fast. And then it's a completely different fast of pure beauty and blissfulness
Yeah.
because you don't feel bad. You can
Yeah.
sit there with your physical body and your physical body doesn't hurt anymore. And then you can
Exactly.
start the work on your mind. But I don't feel like you
Hmm.
can really get into that place unless you get the waste out. Because when you fast and you're in
No,
physical pain, it sucks. You can't really even meditate when you fast
no, you
and
can't
you're
access
having
that.
detox
Yeah.
symptoms.
Like it's really not available to you.
Yeah.
If you're in
Yeah.
that kind of pain and you're detoxing, your diarrhea, you're throwing up. I mean, the last thing you're going to want to do is sit and go meditate or try to access, the higher levels, that kind of thing. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you just have to go through the stages of that. So, for you on your website, you do offer coaching. So, what kind of coaching, like what's involved in being a client under
Yeah.
Jeff
Well,
Juices? Like what
yeah.
does that entail?
It really just depends on the person and their health,
Hmm.
their health issues that they have, whether it's just physical or mental. Mostly it's people who
Hmm.
have chronic disease, who want to get started juicing, who
Right.
don't even know where to start with eating raw food or juicing, and also need somebody to like really to motivate them to continue doing it. Because for
Hmm.
some people, they're not as motivated as me or even you or somebody who's really been down this journey
Right.
and they want to be told exactly what to eat, exactly the recipes to juice, and
Hmm.
they want to have a call every week to stay motivated so I can light a fire under their ass to continue on doing it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people aren't there.
Right.
Like imagine somebody who's a construction
Absolutely.
worker, who's nearing the end of their career, who's lived for 60 years doing the same thing. They're so in one mode that it's very hard to wrap your head around being a raw foodist, living this kind of like
Yeah.
detox style life to where you almost have to get re-educated in order to feel comfortable enough to do this on your own. And that's to me,
Hmm.
that's the most important part of this lifestyle and of coaching is educating somebody and just pounding it into their brain the the reasons to do this and how to do it. Because if you walk away and you
Hmm.
only know like, oh, I need to eat fruit and drink green juice, but you don't really know why, or you don't know the reasons of what it's doing in your body,
Exactly.
why would you continue on doing it? For one, either after
Yeah.
you clear your sickness or even after that to stay healthy. Most people will fall off the
Hmm.
bandwagon. So I consider myself almost like, you know, like an educator, but also I'm a brainwasher who is your friend. I'm gonna
Yeah.
brainwash you into really loving raw food, but I'm gonna support you
Yeah.
I'm just a normal person who's been through this, who wants to be your friend and wants to
Yeah.
be sympathetic to what you're going through and try to help make
Yeah.
some adjustments based on your individual needs. So I mean, I don't even
Yeah.
like calling myself a health coach. It sounds so damn corny because I never
Hmm.
really imagined myself being like a coach. I was a commercial photographer and
Right.
like an action sports athlete.
Yeah.
So I never imagined I would be doing health coaching, but It's literally just, I have conversations with people who want to learn how to do this. That's it. I'm your friend and I teach you what I know
Yep.
and what I've experienced. And so
Yep.
that's it. If you have information that people are willing to pay for and you're down to earth, you're going to help a lot of
Yep.
people. I would much rather talk to somebody who was a normal person, who was smart and who had been through it, than some bookworm who's never experienced anything, who just read the words and they're like, I'm going to regurgitate the words from the book,
Totally.
and it's like
Yeah.
unrelatable and it's unrealistic to expect somebody to really ingrain it in them if you're not relatable, and I feel like that's why
Hmm.
I do well with coaching, and I don't even advertise it ever, because I'm so
Hmm.
normal and I've been through hell, and I've really kind of
Hmm. Yeah,
found
you really have been.
a simple way to bring myself back that most people can understand and follow. So
Yeah.
yep.
And, I just think that it's so important because if people want to start on this journey, there is some addictions that are going to come up. There's going to be withdrawal symptoms. There's going to be all of this stuff. And it's just so important to have somebody to really guide you through. Like it's the difference between failure and success. Not that there's like failure and success per se, but if you want to do well on this path, I feel like if you're coming from, eating a standard American diet, especially, it really requires somebody to kind of hold your hand and guide you through. So,
Oh, of
yeah,
course.
that's
And I
amazing that
have
you're offering
coaches.
that
I hired a
service.
coach. Like when I started this
Hmm.
journey,
Yeah, the
I had
coach needs a coach.
of course, I had a Garrison therapy coach for like 2 months. And then, I
Uh-huh.
just, I knew more than them at the end of 2 months. So I was like, okay, we're done. But
Yeah,
to
yeah,
even like, if you live in the middle of nowhere and you don't have any friends that eat raw food or that do this, sometimes it's helpful to just have a friend to help relate to talk. I mean, I'm, in many ways, I'm like a
yeah,
therapist to just have somebody to
yeah,
talk through your issues with, which is very, very helpful.
yep.
I have therapy. I go to a therapist, back when I
Hmm.
lived in San Diego, I went to like in-person therapy a lot. But now that I, live abroad, I do teletherapy every so often when I feel I need it. So I'm
Yeah,
still, a, a raw food dude who's helped a lot of people heal, I'm still a student of life, and I still look to people for
absolutely.
guidance. I will never
Hmm.
not be a student. And so I will always want to hire somebody to teach me what they know, whether it's, it's not really the raw food. I got the detox thing pretty down, but the next thing is like the spirituality. I would love
Yeah,
to learn from other people doing that. So it's not a bad thing to ask for help, especially if you feel like you need it, you know?
yeah,
And what,
absolutely. So, wrapping this up, I have one question kind of towards the end of my podcast that I like to ask all of my guests. It's the same question. And the question is this: what is your authentic life print? What is your unique expression in the world as Jeff?
wow, that's a really deep question. Wow, I don't even know where to
Yeah.
begin. That's like the ultimate question. Like, what kind of imprint am I
Yeah.
going to leave on the world? Well,
Yeah.
most of my life, I thought it would be through creating images that inspired people, because I was a photographer and filmmaker, pretty quite
Right.
successful. And now I feel like my imprint is just helping people be inspired to regain their life and to live again.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
I mean, there's not many things that can make a person feel as good as seeing somebody going from crying and being depressed and chronically sick, bedridden with no life, thinking that they're probably just going to die, to 3 to 6 months
Yeah.
later living again and going out and having friends and sharing the joy that they have with doing that. So, to me, it's not about like the bigger picture. When I can think about the people that I've helped heal who have said that I have changed their life, it makes me want to cry.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. It's pretty
it's such a
amazing.
powerful thing, saying, like, hearing somebody say that I personally affected their life to where the point is they want to live again. I mean, that's
Yeah.
remarkable, and
It's
again, I
powerful.
don't even like
Hmm.
the term health coach, but giving somebody enough guidance or inspiration to want to relive and reignite their passion to be a human. I mean, like, to me, that's so powerful. So, I mean, I think that's what I was
Yeah.
called to do. And that's the reason I
Wow.
got sick in the first place, was to go through such
Yeah.
hell to be able to relate to other
Hmm.
people to now I know what it was like to
Yes,
be sick, and now I can light a fire under your butt, and I know kind of what to
that's
do
right.
to get people to get back to that place. So yeah, that's a really cool
Yeah,
question.
well, it's pretty it yeah, thank you. It's pretty beautiful though to see, how we can look back on our life and see that, you know, 10, 15 years ago, we probably think, why was this happening? But when you step back out of it and you become the observer in your life and you see all of these events that have happened to get you to this present moment, it was all in perfect, it all happened in kind of perfect timing,
Exactly.
to,
And a lot of people are really
yeah. So
sad
it's
that they
pretty
get sick.
amazing.
A lot of people are sad they get sick, but I think it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I woke up, I was in a very deep
Yeah.
trance, just like
Yeah.
mundanely driving through life, not knowing what was going on. And now, not that I know what's going
Hmm.
on now, like I don't think anyone does. Our world is crazy,
Yeah.
but I'm at least a lot more
Yeah.
comfortable in my own skin being a human
Hmm.
who lives in on this earth and not being so affected by everything. I feel like a
Right.
lot of people just they're reacting to life. And I really
Hmm.
feel like
Yes.
going through a trauma, you learn how to instead of react to life, you learn how to make your own journey through life on what you want it to be and being
Hmm.
content
Well,
in
yeah. And
many
there's,
ways.
yeah. And there's lessons to be learned in all of those traumas. And, it's kind of cliche to say it, but, it's not, we, of course, we all want to strive for happiness and joy in our life. That's where we want, but it's the hard times. It's the times where we're in the ditch and we're in the fetal position on the floor and we're moving through that. Those are kind of the real catalysts for change in our life. That's what kind of really, makes change. And to me, it's that evolution piece as well, where, it's the hard times that get us there, not always the good times come after. So I mean,
Yeah.
you're a perfect example of your path of how you got to this present moment. It's beautiful. And yeah, you're on your path, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
where can people find you? Where's the best place to get you?
So mostly on Instagram, JeffJuices on Instagram. That's pretty much it. And then I do have a YouTube channel. It's mostly
Okay.
longer form content, just Jeff Juices. So I also have
Okay.
a website, just
Uh-huh.
jeffjuices.com. It's got my story on there, kind of a bit about me and kind of what I went through, kind of
Yeah,
going through
it's
the
a great
early days.
story.
Yeah, yeah. But that's it,
Hmm. And I'll link everything as well in the show notes. If people want to get in touch with you, I'll put everything down there as well.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that.
So
Thank you
yeah,
so much.
so
This has been a
thank
really fun
you.
conversation.
Of course. Yeah, this has been amazing. So grateful and thankful for you to take the time to talk to me. It's been amazing. You're like really, really inspiring. And like, I want to go to Costa Rica and do a 21-day water fast now. So yeah, really inspiring for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I
So
appreciate it.
thank you. Of course. Okay, we'll talk soon, Jeff. Thank you so much.